Happy Saturday, everybody. How's your day going so far, Raging Pseudo?
It's going good. Just took the puppy out for a walk in the nice fall day. It's a good day.
Yeah, excellent. How about yourself there, Mr. Sun in the Eyes Pseudo? We can't hear you, buddy. And there's our issue. We can officially
You always gotta have
start.
one.
Hey, we have a
Go
pseudo.
now.
Welcome. And hey, Board, how you doing this fantastic Saturday? Yes, we're talking about Deponia first. The first and only action adventure click game.
Is it action adventure though, or
I
is
was
it
just realizing it's
adventure
point and click adventure. Point and click adventure is what I kind of meant to
Use-
say. It's not an action game at all. Yeah.
I'm going to use some sticky notes to just block out the sun real quick.
Oh,
That is ingenuity.
that's wonderful. That is wonderful. That's problem solving right there.
It was either I lower my chair or I just do this, and that's trying to give me a headache.
All right. We don't have a ton of people here, but I know at least one of them have played Deponia. I know you guys were hanging out with me, and it's pretty easy for me to remember it being the only point-and-click adventure game I've played. Like, I think it's the only one I've ever finished.
It definitely did have a lot of the traditional point and click problems where you just kind of get to the second act and then you're like, I don't really want to do this anymore.
It had a pretty good story to it, but I hated the characters.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the main character was a jerk.
Not that they were bad characters, I just hated them. Hey, Cuddles, welcome. Are you familiar with Deponia? Let's start with our world building. Get it rolling. I don't think there's a lot of news to talk about. Pseudo got his 5950 already. Jerk.
Everybody else is jealous.
I just spec'd into that 10 luck, and that's just the build I'm doing for this life, apparently.
Yep.
Just the luck build.
Yep, and I can confirm this. I I did not go with the luck build. I went with the skill build, and as such, I don't like RNG things. Give me my Dark Souls. I'm good at that. But I'm torn between okay and good on the world building, and it's in a good spot for the game.
Yeah, I'm torn in it as well, because the world they built, I'd say they did a fairly good job on it.
We didn't get to see a lot of it.
The landscape that were created, at least that you were exploring, and there was a bit at least exposed through just interaction with, around the world.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess there could have been, quite a bit more that was thrown there, really kind of pulled you in rather than it kind of feeling like you're just looking at, backgrounds.
Yeah, I agree. It felt like there was depth to it. It feels like there's actually a world there, and I got to know locations. A bearded lordy build with good personality and charisma. Well, thank you. I think the beard
just dump into charisma.
The beard grows with charisma. That's kind of how it works. Like a dwarf in D&D, the bigger his charisma, the longer his beard gets. 'Cause that's about the only attractive thing dwarves get.
But I on the note of world building, I feel like there's a lot more world building that went on in Deponia aside from what you're shown in the game. Like, I feel like there was a lot more done there, and it gives a real sense of coherence.
I agree.
To the world that you're exploring.
The nose. Well, I'm glad you like the nose too. Yeah, I agree. Despite not seeing a lot, you feel like it all fits together, it all makes sense. It feels like a real world around you. You're not just exploring a bunch of still scenes.
Yeah, it's nonsensical.
Oh yeah,
but it's coherent.
Yeah.
And with this genre, it's usually pretty evident, how the world building is, because it's a lot you kind of have to build off of.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a main crux of the thing is you're going through an adventure, and if you're not adventuring through, a properly built world, it becomes very apparent, and you get kind of detracted from the experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So are we good with good then? It sounds like we've all been saying good.
Yeah, I'm down for a good.
Anybody in chat disagree with a good? I know Board doesn't.
Deponia is frivolous. Yes. Yes, that is a good word for it.
Absolutely. Fun though. Made me laugh. There was very few WTF moments where you're just like, what? Most of it made sense for a point and click game. You need that disclaimer on the end for a point and click game. It's like saying that Star Wars game is good for a Star Wars game.
Which is what makes Fallen Order so special, because it was just legitimately a good game.
Yeah, there are a few Star Wars games that were legitimately good before it, but not a lot. World building is coherent and feels like a real world around you, not a bunch of still scenes. Crazy, but coherent.
So I think one of the sort of more contentious things we'll be talking about the characters, because I think the characters were really well written. I just hated all of them.
Yeah, I'm in the same place. I feel like they should be a good, but it irks my soul to give them a good kind of place.
The doctor especially stands out to me as a good character. I did like the doctor.
Yeah, I love the doctor. Love the doctor. There was some other characters too. The
boatman.
Yeah, that's the guy I'm trying to remember. The boat
the
guy. Yeah, I loved his character. The doctor, was that the repair guy or the doctor? The doctor.
No, he was both. That was the same character.
Okay, well, there was also the doctor who was the doctor and security guard and everything at the town. But then I think the guy's name is Doc, who is the repair guy on the bridge, and that's the guy I liked in the second act.
He was the repair guy on the bridge in the second act, but also a doctor in the third act.
Yeah,
I think he was like a brain surgeon or something as well.
Yep. Passion plus hate equals Deponia for you as well. For a point and click game, I loved it. It's not my normal style, but I played the whole thing and enjoyed it. So it's clearly a well-loved, like a well-thought-out game. The people who made it loved it and put effort into making it a good game entirely.
Yeah.
I think we have to give the characters a good, because they evolve and grow as characters throughout the game.
Does the main character, though? I don't think he does.
For him, he does. He's still entirely him by the end.
He's still an asshat.
Oh, yeah, but he's always going to be an asshat. But he's a slightly less asshat. He's like, he's still an asshat, but he's like, kind of begun to maybe feel bad about some of the stuff he's done, whereas before he just didn't give a rat's ass.
Or at least aware of it.
Yeah, it's not a huge change, but it's the beginning of change, and that's fairly well-written characters. People don't usually just change overnight. It's a slow and gradual thing. They did have more stories written, so it's kind of like the first chapter of a book. Kind of how I view it.
Yeah.
I think they're pretty well done characters. They've got a lot of depth. The ones that are used a lot have a lot of depth. The ones that are one-dimensional serve their purpose and are there to deliver whatever. They usually brought laughs with them. F for Twitch app. Yeah, Twitch app, not good. Not good.
I do agree. I think that the side characters, while one-dimensional and probably intentionally so, um, did bring a lot of laughs with them, and that's more than you can expect from a lot of games. With the okay, add backlog, paste.
Oh, wait, remove that. Add it with I'm bored 672.
Oh,
please.
are we adding it with
With the name of the person who submitted
it now?
Yeah, so I can remember, because it's like months sometimes until I get to the game that's been put on. So usually I can remember, but I think it's a good habit to keep in that. Because Pookie always asks me, like, who submitted this one? And I'm like, I think it was this. She's like, you think? And I'm probably right, but I'm not sure. I'm never sure. I want to be sure. I don't trust my memory, basically. This is what I'm getting at. Me and memory, we don't get along. I write things down. Thank you.
There we go.
All right. Yes, I'm with the good. And I have a feeling this game in writing is probably going to be a lot of greens. It's definitely
I agree.
Where the game needs to shine. Characters, while we hated most of them, were well written. With
And
depth
I think that
and context, the side characters were intentionally one-dimensional, and you want your side characters to typically be one-dimensional because you don't want them to pull too much away from the main story. They're there for a purpose. That's why they're there on the side. Poor Lordy
intentionally
memory
one-dimensional, intentionally one-dimensional, but entertaining.
Highly entertaining is where I was going with it. I like my descriptive words.
And I just, for the sake of anybody who watches this, maybe on the VOD or whatever, I think that the characters, us having an emotional response to them, speaks to how well they're written. Like, we actually were invested in a way in that we cared enough to dislike them. It wasn't just boredom.
Yeah, when we say we hated them, it's not that we hated the writing of them, we hated who they are. Which means they were well written enough to have a personality that we could establish as a person and be like, I don't like that person.
Not the kind of people I would want to be friends with.
Storyline.
I would say, like, typical adventure game acid trip.
Yeah, I liked the jokes, but the story, it's a pretty simple, short story. It's more of a setup to a story. I think it's an okay.
I'm thinking through the overarching story of the game.
He's trying to escape. He screws up trying to escape and knocks Girly off platform. He goes to get Girly. Girly's taken by town. He rescues her. They try to escape. The people who she fell off the ship land. I guess it goes into from there the whole... I mean, there's definitely the working of a story there because there's a whole conspiracy going on with the different factions that came to get her, but they're only involved for the last couple minutes. It's like a teaser. Yeah, it is a setup.
Yeah.
I don't think it's enough for me to call it a good story. It was enough to keep playing.
There were some good twists at the end, but, you know, like you've mentioned, like Board mentioned, it's very much setting up for stuff to come, not sort of excellent in its own merit.
It's Star Wars Episode 1. That's why they did episodes 4, 5, and 6 first, because the last half of the book is always the best. Just say it. When the first one was coming out and everyone was all excited, I was like, you're going to chapter 1. Remember this. It's the beginning of the book. It's not going to be epic. I got exactly what I expected out of the movie. I'm calling this one okay.
Yeah, I think an okay is reasonable. I would say it's like a fairly up there okay, but an okay.
Yeah. It's all well done. All the pieces are good. It's got all the makings of a good story. It just ends at the beginning of the story. Storyline is a solid beginning of a story. It gets interesting towards the end, but ends too soon to be very interesting. The performance is good. It'll run on a potato.
Oh yeah.
However, Doom literally ran on potatoes. Did you see that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Doom special. It's powered by hell magic.
Powered by Carmack is what it's powered by.
Are you saying that Carmack is Satan?
Maybe.
There might be some contracts. There might be some
this.
contracts in place.
Okay, I'm good with that. At least we got Doom out of it. The animation was good.
Yeah,
I really liked the animation.
It was a little low frame rate in some points, but that you could tell that was intentional and harking back to games like Monkey's Island, King's Quest, stuff like that. I have almost nothing bad to say about the animation.
Yeah, it never once pulled me away from the game. It was great, and I love the style.
Yeah, I think both were consistent. They had intentional style they were going for, and knew what they wanted to do with it, and I'd say they did it.
Yeah, and like thinking through the art in the game, there are quite a few different settings that you explore.
Yep.
And they are all drawn very consistently in the same style, despite them being fairly disparate.
It's something that you can see a lot of times in point and click adventure games. I've played a few of them, and I have a friend that plays quite a few of them, and I'll watch him play. And at least for the era, what might happen is certain rooms were rendered at a certain time, or maybe later in the development that technology changed. You can kind of see that sometimes all of a sudden quality of certain rooms just kind of changes, which is just kind of how a lot of stuff is, or a lot of effort goes into certain areas. Or even one of the original games I played was a point and click, made it a claymation, and then just due to how it was, some sets and some rooms were just better than others. But I found that this game it was consistent with its polishing and with its style throughout the whole experience.
Yeah, I agree. Very consistent polish. Everything looked mastered exactly the same. Everything looked to be the same world. There was no jarring transitions. So video actually got a better rating than writing, which I guess I'm not super surprised on, but they were both pretty good. Oh no, we've lost a pseudo. Oh hey, we've gained a pseudo.
Whoopsie.
That was the wrong button.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
I've got some stuff on my desk, and I have that habit of moving my mouse and then bumping the thing and then clicking, and then the stars aligned for me to click on the disconnect button.
Yeah, that's totally never ever happened to me before, ever. Not a promise. Musical score, and I don't remember it.
What I remember is it was always like just kind of there. It was never pulling us away from the game, but we were never like, "Ooh, I love this song."
Yeah, I don't remember ever jamming out. There was no cat jams. There was no dances. There was no, there was nothing going on. I think it's an okay.
I would say okay, competent,
The
doesn't
music
distract.
did not get old, despite hearing it for some time in some areas. It never enhanced the game, or it never stood out on its own. It never detracted from the game. There was voice acting for the characters. There wasn't a ton of reading.
I think it was fully voice acted, wasn't it?
Pretty much. And I remember the voice acting being quite good.
It was definitely very over the top and cheesy.
Oh, yeah.
But I think the delivery, like that was the delivery that they were going for.
Absolutely. The style is over the top and cheesy. The animations are over the top and cheesy.
It really helps to, sell those characters and make them, hate them just that much more. Especially when they have an annoying voice to go with it.
There's not a lot of sound effects.
I would say okay.
Yeah. There's basically like the rail car and stuff like that here and there. It wasn't a huge focus in the game.
They don't really do anything with sound.
There's no information. I guess there's a little bit of information relay to you, but it's also visual at the same time when you're... I think it was more visual, actually. I don't remember much sound when you're flicking the switches and stuff. I think I was just watching and figuring out puzzles from there.
Welcome.
Hey, Flash, how's it going? Welcome. Are you a Deponia fan? The German voice acting is better than the English. Is still great. Well, that's cool. That's nice to know.
Now I want to hear the German voice acting.
Doing good. I'm doing great. I love talking about games. Never heard of it? Wow. It is a point-and-click adventure game. I'm not a big fan of point-and-click adventure games. In fact, this is the only one I've ever played on stream. But it was a good game. It was.
Yeah, it was solid. Solid game.
The sound effects were not well used in the game, but they were decent. Quality and sounded appropriate when used. The AI was good because there was none.
Are we giving a good for?
It's like RNG.
Not applicable.
It's RNG.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the same rules as RNG. If it's well used in the game, if it's used the way it should be in the game.
I'm just trying to think if I've ever actually seen
and implemented well
in a point and click.
King's Quest.
I don't think I know King's Quest.
Oh, they're an old series, but quite a few of the King's Quest games actually had combat in on certain screens. They were terrible.
Yeah, don't do that.
It was horrible.
Don't do that. Here's a great example of bad AI. In some of the wizardry games, there's like maps and things like that you have to get from certain shops in the world in order to progress. And other characters in the game, NPCs, can buy them and just adventure off into the world, and you'll have to just go around and like find all these people and figure out where they are, and they'll change place because they're moving around, and you have to just like hope you run into them and trade with them, and if they have it, then great, you get it. Otherwise you just keep looking for them. That's a bad use of AI.
Yeah. You should not have been in the game at all.
But this one gets a good because there is no AI as it should be in a point-and-click adventure game. Do not use AI in your point-and-click adventure games. It's a bad idea. It's a whole lot of work to make your game worse.
I wouldn't say never do it because I don't want to just discourage someone from figuring it out. But yeah, it's common ground if you're for trying it out and you're thinking it might help. It probably isn't.
Yeah. I mean,
it probably won't. It might.
If somebody has this wild idea that they're think they're going to revolutionize the point and click game with AI, then my warning isn't going to deter them. But my warning will deter the amateur person who thinks it might be a good idea. It's not. Don't do it. Okay.
So
Accessibility.
accessibility.
Um,
There's not a lot that it would need. It did have captions.
yep. There's
It
full CC caption. Everything's written
it's
on screen.
it's point and click, so there's like not a whole lot that you need as far as input.
Yep.
Oh, did we check for keyboard input? Is that a thing?
I think you just need to use a mouse. But I mean, any mouse input type will do. So if you have just a little, like one of those
and I'd
little
imagine
adjusty things, or the wheels, scroll wheels, and it's not a fast-paced game. I'm pretty sure
and
anybody
you'd be
can
able
play
to
it.
you'd be able to use an analog stick and then a button to confirm.
Yep.
So yeah, I'd say other than colorblind options,
But there's no.
they kind of nailed it.
Yeah, is there any color puzzles even in it? I guess there are. Red, green.
They did use color to convey information quite a lot.
Yeah, red, green on the lights on the train track switches and stuff. I think colorblind might become an option or an issue.
Yeah, I'd say okay would have been good if they had options for colorblind people or color deficient people.
That's it. It's the only negative thing there. And as far as accessibility goes on an indie game, that's pretty damn good. Most of them get a bad. It's usually only AAAs that approach a good in accessibility. Mechanics. I mean, there was
It's I guess between the point and click interactions as well as like the mini games. I guess were the main mechanics as well as the conversations.
Yeah, the puzzles were decent. Most of them made sense.
Was there keyboard input for the conversations? Did we check? Were they numbered or did you have to click on them?
I don't know.
Would have been nice to have keyboard input for that.
It would have been. I agree.
I know in the console versions at least you have to select. Like you basically hit up and down to select which one you want as well.
Sounds like it was probably mouse input, but you never know. Could be keyboard as well.
I'd say I'm good with an okay then.
Yeah, it fits the formula for point and clicks. It's nothing
very little. What the fuck?
Too innovative for that genre.
Moments in the basic control was standard for a point and click. Nothing innovative. Just well done meat and potatoes.
Which is really all you need for a game like this.
Yep, I say it all the time. You don't need to have a unique game. In fact, most of the greatest games out there, when people love them, have very, 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 very little unique. One or two new things added in, and then a whole bunch of stuff taken from other games so that people recognize what they see. Nobody wants to play something where everything is new and unique and original and they have to figure everything out. It just becomes overwhelming and not worth your time to play a game. There were no bugs that I encountered. Although I was told to keep saves.
Yeah, I remember Board mentioning something that you could soft lock in at least one point, and one other puzzle could corrupt your save, I think. Although I might be misremembering.
Yeah, I do remember the potential soft lock though, and that's an automatic bad. Keep your soft locks out of your game. Nobody wants a soft lock.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate. Like most of the genre has this. I don't think it's excusable for it, but it's
it is a thing that is unfortunately common.
The one place I would not give a bad for a soft lock is something like Final Fantasy Tactics, where like you can have a long string of battles and they give you save options in between. And if you oversave your save, that can go grind. The battles get harder as you go. And if you encounter a fight you just can't win, and you don't have a save to go back and grind, then you're starting over. That's your fault.
I mean, I would also say that that's not a soft lock, right? Like that's just you not being prepared for the upcoming content.
Yeah, and then saving over any hope of powering up. I've done that like 5 times in Final Fantasy Tactics. Game's hard.
So RNG, I would say, is good. I don't remember there being any, which is exactly what you want in a point-and-click adventure game. You want your state to be determinate.
Yeah. It's a point-and-click adventure, not a luck your way through it adventure. There is no RNG. RNG should not be used in point-and-click in general. In general. Yes, there's always the fringe case. I'll include the in general for that. The control was good. It's a point-and-click adventure.
I would say the control is okay.
Really?
They're missing stuff like keyboard input. They're missing stuff like...
Are they missing keyboard input? Are we sure?
Quick shortcut to text.
I think it means like choices. Like you can do 1, 2, 3, or 4.
I know what he's talking about. I'm just not sure if it was there or not.
Oh, I mean, if Pseudo, you've played the console versions, have you?
No, I've just seen them. I've seen them and watched people play them. But you walk up and you get like the button presses to choice. At least for the Switch one.
But you can't like press A, B, X, Y for different levels or different items in the conversation or anything like that.
From what I remember and seeing for the dialogue, yeah, it just highlights one and then you just hit up and down to choose.
Yeah, I would say that like that can be very convenient, especially on a controller. You can use modifier keys to get to more than 4 options at a time. I would consider that part of like, you should probably have this.
That's fair. That's fair.
The game came out.
My thing with control is there ever a moment where I'm like, it's not doing exactly what I want it to do? And it was easy to control. It was always doing exactly what I wanted all the time. But yeah, maybe there is room for improvement still above that.
So I would say it's very competent control. It never ruins anything for you when you're trying to interact with the game.
Very high okay. It never gets in the way of itself and is easy to control. There are still areas for improvement in conversation selection with keyboard or controller modifier keys. Voila. Oh, hey. Right. I usually do this too, don't I? Too big?
I'm biggin'.
I don't usually use Brave Browser. This is my first panel with Brave Browser. And it got too big there. There we go. Playing with it. I like 140. We're going to go 140 from now on. Remember that number, 140. Remember it for me. You know I won't. Okay. Writing's good.
Yep.
Video is good.
Yep.
Voice acting is okay.
Audio in general is okay.
Audio is okay. Yeah, voice acting was good, but the audio was okay. I was looking at voice acting and trying to say audio. And gameplay is okay.
Yep. And I'd say that that's, again, a pretty accurate summation of our experience in the game.
Yeah. Yeah. Once again, I'm pretty happy with our review process. We've only had one person come up to us. Just do a Google unless you have to have it installed to bring it up. Which, no, you don't. No. What do you mean, how brave of you?
To use Brave Browser.
Oh, so I see. I see. I love Brave. If you use Chrome, just go get Brave. You can make the swap in less than 5 minutes, and it takes all the overhead of all Chrome's tracky garbage away. Plus, it has built-in ad blocking. It's literally less than 5 minutes to have it up and running. There's my little spiel. Get off Chrome. Let's talk about destroy all humans.
Actually, just give me a second. I'm going to run to the washroom real quick.
Okay.
Been drinking way too much water today.
No,
I
you've
feel
been
that.
drinking an appropriate amount of water.
Well, I've narrowly
But
missed 420, so I'll heat up that while he goes. Remember, you didn't get to play a lot of Kill All Humans.
no, I didn't get to watch you play a ton of it either. So I don't have a whole lot of input for this game for writing, but I feel like I can talk about the other categories.
Oh yeah. Did you watch much 50s sci-fi stuff?
I've watched a lot of spoofs of 50s sci-fi stuff.
It's the whole game is just a massive homage to 50s Martian sci-fi. That's all it is. Every single scene is just oozing in style of the whole genre, and I loved every second of it. But I'm a huge sucker for that old film, as you know.
Well, maybe you can talk a little bit about world building then.
Oh yeah. Well, you want me to start? Pseudo loves this game. I'm gonna give him a sec. I know he wanted to talk about this one. We've got lots of time. We kind of pounded through that first game.
Yeah, we may need to pluck another game off the backlog to review.
Yeah, that's not a problem. We can absolutely do that. We're starting to streamline our process. You know why? Because nobody got us to go off topic. We were basically on topic that whole time.
It's funny how that happens when we actually focus on what we're supposed to be doing.
That's unheard of. All right. I waited for you, Pseudo, because I know you were a fan of the game.
Oh, yeah.
This was one of his requests, actually. Pseudo submitted it as well. So we were.
Yeah, that's right.
We were going to start on world building.
As much as I like this game, it does have flaws. And it was a remake from the PS2 era, and it, carried a lot of those flaws over into it. So hopefully I'm not too mean on this, but I'll try to give it a just evaluation. I thought world building was it leans towards okay. I did like the maps and areas that you go to. They're just, the depth wasn't really there for the most part. It did kind of.
I mean, you see a lot of the U.S. A lot of it looks the same, granted, but a lot of the U.S. does look the same. All suburbs.
Yeah,
You're just mainly running around beating up suburbs and trashing 50s cities, which were all about the same size, little strip malls, nothing too tall. But
I absolutely. Sorry.
I said it plays well on all of the old stereotypes from all the old 50s movies, and it draws a lot of a feel. Maybe a lot of people that played it didn't get all that because they weren't super familiar with those movies, because the market for that game definitely wasn't the type of people that watched a lot of old Martian sci-fi stuff, though it did come out around the same time as Mars Attacks, didn't it?
There was a little rash of alien, like 50s style alien invasion games that happened just sort of all at the same time. A lot of them did come out on the PS2.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was around the same time as Mars Attacks, because it just made all that so popular. That's really what they were building it off of, was that popularity.
I think it was more of it was like Judgment Day. Around then was when alien stuff got pretty popular, because Mars Attacks was 90s, and this game I think would have been early 2000s.
Okay.
But I really like a 1950s suburbs is up there with one of my favorite aesthetics, along with just the 80s and then the just futuristic cyberpunk stuff. So I really enjoyed that. It's just that you kind of show up in a spaceship as aliens, and it gives you a little bit of backstory, but not a whole lot of depth on what the hell that world is. And I think that would have been a lot nicer to do, because you do kind of just drop into the Earth, and you're fairly familiar with it, and it plays on those kind of external affordances. But then after a while, you're kind of just like, I'm in a city, now I'm in another city. But if you even just kind of took out the names and locations of like America, if you don't really know where those places are, you don't really even really see the difference too much. It was still I still really enjoyed them. It's just that there was a level for depth to be there that just kind of wasn't. Especially when I try to think of what is the world of Destroy All Humans, it doesn't really have its own distinct world. It kind of just borrows heavily from just the other kind of genres, which is fine. It just doesn't build its own world.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I don't think it's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing, definitely, but we're not calling it bad to just borrow on what's been created. But I guess they don't deserve a good for creating an original world when they're just dropping into an existing one. I think that's basically the same thing we said with the Lord of the Rings game and the Star Wars game. Although the Star Wars game actually did a good job of world building. I think we gave that a good.
Yeah. So it can be done as well. Like it's one of the things, like you can take those external references and really build upon something really cool. Like look at like Sekiro. They built upon a lot of Japanese culture and not directly referencing historical things, but you can take those sources and really kind of run with it and create something that's unique, but still has something that people of culture will be used to. Same with Western games as well. Even games like Grand Theft Auto takes place in a Western city, but it's completely its own different world. They've completely built their own thing, and it's completely distinct. You can say the world of GTA, and people will get that.
That's
but
true.
I mean, I don't. Yeah, so that's my main thing stopping it from being a good. I still really enjoyed it. I still really love the aesthetic and everything went with. I just to have there be more. It would be nice if they really did build the world of the aliens as well as build their own unique kind of take on what's going on in 1950s America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm good with that. I'm good with an okay. World they used is familiar, but not original. Nothing stands out, but never feels out of place. Generic, but everything fits. It's fine.
It's fine.
The meat and potatoes were good. It could use a little sauce.
It's one of those other things where it comes from that era where there wasn't a whole lot of like most of it was just the action genre. It's just give me a setting, give me some sort of plot to kind of care about, and then just let me destroy things. And it does that.
You're making an action-y, interactive, real-time game on the PS2, so you've only got so many resources to work with a lot of them going towards the interaction and real-time parts.
Yeah, it was also just that. I would kind of refer to it as kind of like Wild West of game design back then. They're still trying to figure out, what people want and what sells. And at that point, mindless action games was, super hot, which is, that's what was there at the time, and these games sold fairly well, and I still enjoy it, but there's still, room for improvement for today's standards.
That's when I checked out. Was that era? After the PS2, I didn't buy a PS3. There was just too much garbage. I missed out. I'm glad I'm back. Hey, Gaming World, I'm back. Characters were okay.
Yep.
I can't remember the names of any of them. Cannot remember the names of any of them, but it does not matter.
They serve their purpose.
Fit their role.
Because technically speaking, the aliens, Crypto is just all of one being because they just clone themselves all the time. But I did enjoy their personalities. They don't really, they don't grow too much. It's just kind of just that alien ubermensch of, I'm just going to wreck everything. And it has a funny personality to go with it. But the person's just, I'm just going to wreck and cause mayhem. And then the overlord is just kind of hilarious in their own way of just over the top, wanting everything to be destroyed, the bossiness of it. And then the human characters were, they were written in that kind of Reagan era Red Scare. Yeah. And they fit that well. There wasn't any depth for any other characters, which is fine. Most of them were kind of just comic pieces pulled and placed, and reference pieces pulled in place, which is that's okay, especially for the time when it was made. And it was enough. It got through it.
Absolutely. Storyline was okay.
Yeah, it's nothing super special, but it also didn't, wasn't a chore to really go through. It kept you engaged enough. I'm am I going to destroy all the humans or not? But, there was nothing ever really too much at stake. There was at least some twists and turns thrown in and some things there that were given to care about, but overall it wasn't, kind of happens when there isn't a world to build into as well. It kind of be hard to have a story exist on its own with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm with you. Take the shovelware off the store. Make your store more reliable. Performance is good.
Yeah, I was surprised. I booted it up, and it was because I played this game originally on PS2. I've played most of it. I think I played all. I think there's 3 of them. At least the first 2 I played. And I played them enough that I still remembered how they felt. And then booting it up on modern hardware and just having it run at like high frame rates and just smooth, no stuttering at all. I'm like, ooh, it had that nostalgia feel for me because it kept the game consistent. But then just having it run good was just such a great feeling.
Oh, it's a remake, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
the first one.
Yeah, you would know if you were playing the original.
I know it was on PS2 only originally. I like the animation a lot.
Yeah, the animations were cheesy and over the top, and I think it's exactly what they needed to be. There was a decent amount of variation in what I saw. I wouldn't say a great amount of variation. Weapons were pretty satisfying.
Yeah, especially for the remake, they really did kind of amp up the animations that were there, and provide a few more of them, as well as just kind of the ship stuff, the different weapons, all the effects and stuff like that, and even just the effects when you're like popping the brains out of people. It's all those kind of little enhancements that were added that didn't have to be, but I'm glad they did for the remake. It really adds that overall polish feel.
Loved it. Little heads just popping, brains coming out. It was fantastic. It was so 50s sci-fi. It was so Mars Attacks, Martians invade. Which brings us to the style, which is just good.
Oh yeah,
I love
the
it.
style's great.
The style is the strength of the game. They took an aesthetic and built a fun game around it.
And they kept it consistent, which is quite rare for that time as well. I'm glad the remake kept it consistent as well, because people, can get kind of tempted when you start adding in, the agents and stuff like that. You can start bleeding in, like, oh, let's pull in like Men in Black inspiration, or let's pull in, more 80s or more modern tech. But they still kind of kept it all relevant in what other tech there was. They explained it, being like, well, they captured alien tech, so it kind of makes sense, and it matches the same style that the alien tech they provided actually has.
Absolutely. And I'm not a huge game music guy because my ears suck. I'm good with sound effects because I'm always listening for them for cues. But you guys are better on the music front. Misters, I play a musical instrument.
I'd go with okay.
Yeah, I would say okay as well. The bits that I did get to see definitely were outstanding, but they were fine.
It
matched the it appropriately changes for the the missions you're on. You're not getting battle music when you're sneaking, and you're getting not happy-go-lucky music when there's tanks shooting at you. So at least on that level, it was good. You don't really notice it too much, which is kind of the point of it. It's supposed to be a complement to the experience for the most part.
Yeah. That's my thing. I didn't notice it. It's where I am. That's the okay. I'll still notice it if it's bad enough.
You telling me you don't want random country music in your horror game?
We're looking at you, Dead Space 3.
That game retroactively made the other ones worse.
Man.
It's a fourth dimensional mechanic.
Even the people in chat that liked country music while we were in the spaceship fighting space monsters was like, why is there country playing?
It's a bad game.
Voice acting was good.
Bad game.
Voice acting was good.
Yeah, they do a really good job.
I love the alien voices. I love the American soldier voices. I love the civilian voices. I love the farmer voices. You get the point.
Yeah, a quick thing I just want to go over for that too is that in the 50s and stuff like that, a lot of those movies, there was an actual specific like talking style and speaking style for acting in movies at that time.
Yep.
And they replicated that fairly well with
the
humans.
Pan American accent. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, you know, it sounds realistic, but it sounds like something you've never actually heard in person. And it's probably because it's true. It was an accent that was, you know, developed for media and television. And it's nice that they actually went ahead and used that. And it really adds to that style and aesthetic that they were going for.
I think they nailed the delivery.
There's something
and
off about the voice acting to me, but I think that's just a me thing. Yeah. Watch some old 50s sci-fi, and you'll be like, there's something wrong about the way these people are talking. I guarantee you, if that's how you felt, because they talk exactly like they did in this.
it's the Pan American accent. They don't speak like anybody you've ever heard because it's a manufactured accent.
Yeah, I love it. It put me right into the groove that the game was trying to make. They nailed it. And the sound effects were good.
Oh yeah, they were very good. Really nailed the cheese and over the top nature of everything that was going on.
Relay information to the player with incoming enemies and dropped pickups. The rest was perfectly used cheese. Thinking of like the pop sounds for the brains coming out and stuff like that.
And the sounds of all the weapons.
Yeah, the guns and the tanks and everything too had that like cartoony like feel.
Yeah,
that,
absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely. AI.
I don't think we can go above an okay.
Yeah,
Really?
They just
I thought it was really good, actually. Maybe it's just I'm thinking for its time, but
it is a remake, and I don't know. Like for the most part, the AI is just basic, which is fine, and it's kind of what it needs to be. But I mean, you can. There's nothing like super special about it. They just follow and run at you and shoot, and then you can turn a corner and take someone over, and they disappear. Or you can, take over someone's persona right in front of another person, and then they just disappear, and that person just walks away like nothing happened.
okay, fair enough. You got me.
It's well done for combat and action. It's definitely leaning more towards good.
Great for the era. Does what it needs. It is an enjoyable game, though there is room for improvement in the AI. Hey, Incaria, welcome. How's it going? As far as I remember, it had audio sliders.
I mean, it's probably a faithful remake in that sense. Doing good, hyped, soon Friday again. Double Friday?
What? It's Saturday today. You hurt my brain, man. You hurt my brain.
Pseudo is doing exceedingly well. Pseudo got his new processor in.
Yep. We will all be as good as Pseudo as soon as we get our processors.
I'm hoping the stocks will be okay, because I was not expecting mine to get mine soon. And then they gave me the call, and they're like, "Yeah, we got a bunch in today, so you can come get yours." And I'm like, "Ooh."
Did not think that you would be getting yours before you got mine, or before I got mine. You were further back in the line, and the retailer that you ordered from is smaller than the retailer that I ordered from.
Yeah, who knows what happened, but hopefully we've got a whole bunch more stock coming so we can all get. I live in the future. Did all of you play the original and the remake of Destroy All Humans? Pseudo played both. I played the remake. Rage played neither and watched them, so we get an interesting all three perspective. That's why we do these reviews with a panel and not one person. That also helps us avoid subjectiveness. Wanted both, now not sure. Play the remake. The remake was great. Loved the remake. If you like cheesy 1950s sci-fi, American sci-fi, then it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'd say the remake is close enough to the original that you don't really need to play the original.
Yeah.
I would just play the remake. It just runs better and looks nicer, and it's still the same content.
Mechanics, I think were good. I don't think I'd want to add anything to the game. I didn't feel like I was missing anything.
It had enough, and they were paced well, I found. They would kind of slowly introduce you to the new weapons and slowly introduce you to the new psi abilities throughout the missions. So you weren't overwhelmed, as some games in the genre can do, where you just start off and like, well, I've got a lot of buttons to push, and I don't know what's going on. And they were fun, like each one on their own. There wasn't really anything. Some are stronger than others and not balanced, but it's the kind of game where that doesn't really matter because it's not inherently that difficult, and it just kind of just is. What is your poison? What do you want to do to have fun? Do you want to get in the saucer and blow everything up? Do you want to run around and explode heads? Do you want to use the disintegrator ray? Do you want to use the electronic the zapper and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, while they may not have been balanced, everything was viable. Everything was usable. You could go around and use pretty much anything and clear the mission. Like you said, it's not made to be super difficult. It's made for you to kill all humans.
It is so much fun throwing tanks. It's so much fun throwing those tanks around in the UFO. That was my favorite thing to do. Just you pick these things up and just yeet them into buildings, yeet them into other tanks, and I'm like, oh, this is great. Or even just when you're on foot, grabbing any objects and throwing them, or grabbing the people and throwing them was always the quickest way. You started getting overwhelmed. You're like, all right, throw 4 people in the air while I try to find some ammo.
Felt it was like the cheese, but felt it was limited. I mean, it's not that limited. You got a lot of different powers. If you get bored using one power, there's a lot of other things you can do, and yeah, it got fun. It was just fun. It's not a super long game. I don't think it outlived its enjoyment.
Yeah. And I think that's key to bring up, is that there wasn't too much game for the mechanics available to you. Like Hades, I feel like really had a problem with having too much game for what you can do with it. Like the story was just too long. I stopped having fun before I cleared the game.
That could be a you thing on that one too. Because I haven't tried I haven't tried every boon yet. Like I haven't unlocked them all. I haven't gotten every item yet, and I've cleared the story.
Right, but that also speaks to them not solving some of the pacing issues, right? Because if I could have everything unlocked, have nothing new available to me, and then just have to grind to get to the end of the story because they didn't tell me what I needed to do, kind of a problem.
I think the story is secondary in that game, honestly. It's more meant to be, do you enjoy the gameplay enough to keep playing it or not? If you enjoy that main loop like a roguelite is meant to be, then you just keep playing it and they'll give you story for playing it. You just don't really like roguelites. That's your thing. And that's fair.
It is true that I don't like roguelites. But there's problems with that game. It's not perfect. It is very good, but it's not perfect.
It's not perfect. It's really just if you like the core game loop, then keep playing it and you'll enjoy it. And that's my summary of Hades. But I think this deserves a good. I think all the mechanics fit together. I think everything was usable. They all had their own situations. They were all introduced at a nice pace, like Pseudo said. You can choose what you want to level up. Everything can be used in any situation in different ways. It's more about how you want to approach it.
Yeah, a quick thing I want to touch on this error too. There's a really annoying, say trend or trope, whatever word we want to use for this. What these games would do is they would start you off with everything and give you a taste of this is what you feel like at the end of the game, and then convenient story then takes all that away from you, and then that's typically when they do that. It was for all right, we know that the game's going to be boring in the early, so we're going to give you a taste to let you know that it's going to be fun eventually, so you'll play through our boring stuff. And it's something they could have done with this game. You show up with this super strong ship and super strong abilities, and then you get shot down, and you have to start over from scratch. I'm just really glad they didn't. I'm glad that they're just you start off decently powerful, and it makes sense, and then you just get more and more powerful as your enemy starts to evolve along with you.
game story has to have a good enough reason to take it away. It's just it's overused is the problem, even if you have a good reason. And I agree it wouldn't fit here because they're an invading alien force. You should be vastly superior in power to the measly little humans running around with their cap guns shooting at your alien ship with your death rays.
Yeah, it's like I think the main one I remember from that era was like one of the most wanted games started you off with like one of the best cars, and the BMW, and then they immediately just take it away from you, and then you're like, okay, I see that eventually I'll be driving fast, fun cars, and now I'm driving, you know, a less than great car. And I understand. Like I said, the reason why they do that is because if they just start you off with those cars, you know, you're like, well, I was expecting to go fast. But it's one of those things that started bleeding over into a lot of games, and it started getting kind of very annoying. And they'd always do the same thing: we'll start you with everything, convenient plot point, we'll take it all away, and the plot point can be good and it can fit the story. But on a mechanic level, it's, you know, it can be very, at least for me, it was very frustrating because you get a taste of the good life, and I think this stuff still shows up today. I think what's that very mediocre PS4 zombie game? Days Gone. I know there's lots of it. Days Gone does the same thing. I think you start off with like a very strong bike, and then they just immediately I'm like, I bet they're gonna take this away from me, aren't they? And then sure enough, yeah, they do. Here you go. Now you got to upgrade back to what it was, and you're like, I get that, like, you know, it could be motivating, but at the same time, it feels a bit better if you just, you know, actually start off weaker and grow with the character through the game to get stronger, rather than, you know, just restoring a point. It's not really growth. It's kind of just, you know,
getting back to where you were.
Yeah. I absolutely love Stubbs the Zombie. That was one of my favorite games.
Yeah, played the hell out of it.
I have actually never even heard of it. I gotta Google it.
It's fantastic. It's also that 1950s aesthetic, but you're just playing as zombies and eating brains. It is co-op as well.
Yep.
And it's one of the best co-op games I played.
Rebel without a pulse.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, I like it already.
If we can get it running, we should do it co-op together on stream sometime. Me and you, when we can get together.
Deal.
It's just a ton of fun. Was it more than 2-player or was it 2-player?
I think it was just 2-player.
Okay.
Oh, apparently it's abandonware now.
Oh, interesting. Destroy all human bugs? I mean, I didn't hit any, but I don't hit a lot of bugs.
I didn't hit any in the remake. The original one, there were some things I did, but that was mostly just me breaking stuff. You know, physics were hard back then, so, you know, if you were...
Physics are still hard, to be fair. Like, just look at IdTech.
Physics are still hard, but now physics is outsourced to other people and brought in as a library, whereas before you just had to write your own physics.
I mean, we've got hardware now. The hardware back then, if you look at even just what, you know, the PS2 had going for it, there's not a whole lot there. So there was some weirdness. So like, I'm glad the remake addressed a lot of that and, you know, made it modern. But yeah, I didn't run into any major issues with it.
Yeah. Entered on multiple playthroughs. Okay. I don't think there was RNG, was there? Maybe where
there was
things spawn?
Loot drops, weren't there?
Maybe.
No. Did
I
things?
don't know, am I misremembering? I didn't watch a lot of this game.
You get DNA by popping heads out of people. It was like a skill shot. You had to do certain things to kill them, basically.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's really RNG. I think like certain... Yeah, I think it's just... At the most, it would just be like enemy spawns, but for the most part, that's not even really RNG. That's just kind of, you know, algorithms with a lot of variance. So I don't think there is any. And if there is some, and I don't know, then that's, you know, a good sign.
I can't think of any... And I can't think of any places where I really want any. You always wanted to play Stubbs. Yeah, buddy of mine picked
abandonware. Go get it.
A buddy of mine picked up a copy of it, and I was at his place, and we were smoking a whole bunch, and he was like, "Hey, I got this," and we started playing it, and we finished it. We just didn't move until it was done. It was that good. Yeah. There was no real discernible RNG. Added to the experience. Yep, when you needed DNA, you just whipped out your head popping ray, and then you went around looking for people to hit with that. You just popped their heads. You had to use certain things. It was one of the less powerful ones, so you had to get in close, hit them with it. But it could chain later on if you powered it up. So like, I would sit around a corner, and one cop would come around the edge, and I'd hit him, and it would like arc, and there'd just hear.
So Control. How did Control this?
The actual control of it was pretty good.
It was surprisingly smooth.
Yeah, like
to me, at least.
when you hit the button, it did the thing, typically the thing you wanted to the thing you wanted to do it. And if it didn't, you didn't feel like it was its fault. You felt like it was your fault.
Yeah,
which is
and,
which is very important in Control.
The flying saucer and stuff too. You know, they could have made that annoying, but it's fairly intuitive. You know, it just kind of sits there on an axis, and you need to rotate around.
Yep.
Hitting a button to shoot in front of you, or hitting a button to shoot under you, and it's a smooth, I'd say, polished control experience. From the original, it was about probably the same. The reason why I'm probably just saying smooth now, because I was probably used to 30 frames, and then now I'm playing it at like 4 times that. So it's I'm probably like, wow, I can move everywhere and control exactly where I want to go. But yeah, I mean, like, even just using like the weapons and stuff and aiming, there's a little bit of aim assist for some of the weapons, which is it's fine. Yep. It's not a game that should have that difficulty of you need to make headshots. You're using alien tech, and they give you enough enemies that it's fun to zap a lot of them or have a bunch of brains pop off, and you're not getting frustrated being like, come on, do the thing. It's working, and there's enough when you're using like mind control and stuff like that. There's enough like freedom in that aiming where if you're close enough, you grab them. So I mean, there's no point where you're just spamming the button, being like, come on, grab them. It's like, no, you push the button, and it's weighted enough that it'll grab the person you're looking at.
Yep, it's close enough with the aim assist. It's non-PvP single player, so it doesn't matter with the aim assist. I'd rather have it than not in that sort of a game. I'd compare it to like Just Cause. Just Cause on a controller with aim assist is so much better than without, because you can just run around and shoot things and blow things up instead of having to do all this fine-tune aiming on your damn controller. That's no fun. No fun. Yeah. It's fun with a mouse. I love fine-tune aiming with a mouse, but with a controller, it just takes away from it.
It gets annoying, and that kind of level of skill you need is a lot more for controller if you want to have that quality of aiming, especially if you don't have hiding mechanics or cover mechanics or any sort of defensive thing. It doesn't make sense to make it that challenging, because most of that market isn't really going to be at that skill level. I know I'm even not really that great with controllers half the time, and if I'm playing a game that's supposed to be kind of fun casual destruction, and all of a sudden I'm getting wrecked because I can't pull off every single headshot in the room, then it's going to really be a problem. Exactly.
It's a casual game. It's meant for a casual market. It should be designed with a casual control scheme. And like you said, it's alien weaponry. It should wreck these things. You should be vastly superior, and it's exactly how you feel. Yeah, I'm good with the good. Even when I was wanting to target individual humans, I remember being able to hit the ones I wanted to, even with the aim assist and stuff like that. That's my big thing. If there's too much aim assist, it drives me nuts. Like when games do too much for you, that pisses me off. That's bad control, in my opinion.
Yeah, if they locking is really annoying, like the lock and snap.
Yep.
I know the original Gears had that, because it's just one of those problems. You need to aim a lot of stuff, and they're like, well, we need to give you assist. And thankfully, a lot of times you have options to turn them off. But you'll go, and then that's when you really notice if you get the wrong enemy because you just snap in a different direction. You're like, okay, and then you're locking. So if they're moving too fast, you just start kind of zipping along with them. You're like, okay.
Yeah, or when they have too generous of a radius for input entry, and they have strange priorities. So you're trying to do one thing and it's continuously doing something over here because you're reasonably close to looking at that thing. It drives me nuts. Do what I'm looking at, not what I'm nearby.
You know, I managed to avoid a lot of the games with those problems somehow. The most egregious form of a game not doing what I want it to is probably actually Dark Souls 1 and its stored roles.
Mm-hmm.
And like that only comes into play if you're already really good at the game. So,
Yeah, no, the Dark Souls 1 has great control. It has its own rules that you have to play by, so it's not going to accept every input you put in the second you put them in. But it will do what you tell it to if you play by its rules. But I'm good with the good on this one. I quite enjoyed the control.
yeah, by the sounds of things, it's solid.
Yeah, and like it's like I meant to bring up the jetpacks and stuff too. Like everything is just it's got the same feel. Everything has a little bit of floatiness to it, and a little bit of that casual touch of we're not gonna really force you to try super hard to make sure your jetpack is have enough fuel to get from building to building. They're like, whatever, jetpack around, have fun. Not going too fast, not going too slow. It's just a really good time.
Yeah. The one time that's the one time I remember feeling like the control was kind of lacking was in the final battle. And it turns out the reason the control was lacking is because I was trying to do things it wasn't really meant to do. And I was trying to do them because I didn't have the abilities I should have had. Once I went and got a couple upgrades, I was like, oh, they just wanted you to use this ability here. Oh, now it's so easy. Okay.
Yeah, maybe a little hole in the progression guiding for the game, but not a problem with control.
I was kind of pushing it through because I wanted to do it within the time limit for the game submittal. I didn't want to do it that fast. I was having fun with it, and I definitely wanted to go around and destroy more things and buy more upgrades. But I bought the upgrades for the mode that I was having. Actually, you know what? I did exactly what I did in Dante's Inferno. Almost all my upgrades went into one mode, and then the final battle was another mode.
Problems with game progression.
Yay, PS2 era.
Well, Dante's Inferno wasn't on the PS2, so it can't even use that as an excuse. Right? Yep.
I think it was PS2.
Dante's Inferno?
Yeah.
I don't see that game working on PS2.
Right.
I think it came out shortly after God of War 2.
It looks like it was 2010 on 360 and PS3. I think I was probably thinking of God of War, but I mean, yeah, there's quite a few kind of action tree skill games where they have a bunch of options, but then there's obviously the options that the developers and the designers rolled with when they played and made it, and
yep.
They were like, hey, it works with this one, and then didn't think about trying everything all the way through.
Yep.
Oh wow.
Yep.
Dante's Inferno came out a lot more after God of War 2 than I thought it did.
Yeah. Yep, it was a much later game. But look at them scores for Destroy All Humans. That's pretty good.
It's a good game.
Has okay writing, which it's a PS2 casual action game. The rest is all good.
And I feel like this is one of the benefits of having viewer submitted games and not trying to do the CarTube thing of play every game on a platform.
No, well, he's
You get
doing
to play
that, but he's
the-
also
the
doing
good
user
game.
submittal. It's just the community loves to give him bad games.
Well, I mean, and Friday is the thing.
Yeah, Friday's a thing. He actually plays a lot of good games, but yeah, I couldn't do a console challenge. There's another guy I pop in on once in a while because he's on late at night all the time, who's trying to do all licensed console games.
Oof.
The only good one I know, and I beat it again recently, was The Warriors on PS2. That game was a phenomenal.
No, not movie license.
Since
Licensed console games, like all official release console games. That's
Gonna
a
be a
lot
lot
of
of
games.
shovelware.
oh, okay.
It's a lot of games.
The license from the console. Yeah, usually when I hear license, I'm thinking of like they had to get an
A
external
movie
license.
license. Yeah.
Yeah, not just the dev.
Just everything licensed to be released on the console. Just excluding all the like third party unofficial type stuff. Yeah. Wish you luck. Don't want to play a lot of those games. He already made it through Road Rash, so congrats.
That is an accomplishment.
That is an accomplishment. So we got time. Let's do one more game.
What else we got on the backlog?
I'm glad we're getting through them. We've been kind of lax on these. What do we got? There we go. Game reviews. All right, we've done Deponia Destroy. Hey, Horizon Zero Dawn PC. I guess we could do God of War 3. I don't know why we haven't done God of War 3. We could just do God of War 3. Why haven't we done God of War 3? Why is it on the list and I'm not doing it?
Probably because
I was
we figured it would take a while to talk about.
I was constantly skipping it because God of War 1 and 2 were also being skipped, and then we did 1 and 2 and not 3, and I just kept skipping 3 and we never did it. So let's just do 3. I think it's the oldest one on there.
Sure.
It'll be fine. Where'd it go? All right. Well, let's get the title updated.
Got to remember which one God of War 3 is.
Yeah, they've all
One was
blended
Zeus.
together. It's it would be the one where you finally kill Zeus, right?
You kill
You kill
all the gods. All the
A great many things.
Yeah. It's the one where you really get kind of ridiculous. It's
Yeah,
Mm.
I barely remember it. That's a bad thing.
Yes. Okay, I'm starting to remember. Oh, yep. I remember this one. I liked this game. This game was good.
Actually, if I remember right, it was my favorite of the 3 too. My favorite of the 3 as well. Yeah. 3-2 just sounded weird. I was like, did I say that right? That's the wrong 2 though. So made sense in my head.
I'm reading through the item unlocks for the game. And I'm just remembering all the boss fights where you get these items, the different stages that you go through.
Good, because I don't.
Good game.
I'm probably not going to either, because I only played it the once, and I've played a lot of games since I played this.
You'll probably get refreshed as we start talking about the mechanics, because a lot of the mechanics are kind of, drawn from those bosses, like the Helios head. You literally take
I'm actually
Helios's head.
I'm looking through the mechanics right now, and it's showing graphics of the boss, and I do remember it. And I remember doing this first boss, the Leviathan, and suddenly being like, ooh, I like this. It was
God of War 3 controls real good.
Yeah, Yeah, it was a very responsive. Yeah, the world flips up. It was very pretty. There was no annoying platforming.
There's like a some, but not as much because of the control. Like they give you a lot of coyote time, and they give you a lot of just kind of floating air time when you jump around. So it's when there is jumping around, it's not like you're really trying to hit those tight angles, and now you don't have a camera that just starts going buck wild when you turn a corner.
I like that they had put the QTE buttons in the same place all the time in this one.
Yeah, big improvement from the previous games.
Because that drove me nuts.
Yeah, it was something that when the original God of War games came out, UI developers just in general hadn't really figured out like usage patterns and how people actually interact with the software that they're using.
Oh, totally.
But by the time God of War 3 came out, there had been some very clear patterns developed. Users had been trained to use the games in a certain way.
Yep.
So they were able to do a lot better.
Yes, I agree. The information was much more clearly relayed. Yeah, share this one up too. We turn off the pimp? I forgot.
I don't know. Did I fix clear pimps?
The suspense.
No, probably not.
Did you crash
either
it?
that or I just
Okay, it's still there.
I just forgot to put in a acknowledgement that it did it. So we'll see.
There we go. We'll add another one and just let them compete. All right. World building.
What did we give the previous games? That's what I'm trying to remember.
Well, probably good to reference it because we kind of sourced, at least for me, a lot of times I was talking about. I kind of talked about all the stuff that they fixed in the third one. I personally really liked what they did in the third game. They really it kind of comes back to what I was saying before, like with Destroy All Humans, how they had that 1950s aesthetic, but they didn't do much with it. God of War 3 took, Greek mythos and did a whole lot to it.
Yeah.
And it is like you can think of the God of War world, and it does have its own merit. It does stand out on its own and is different from just Greek mythos. There is Kratos. There is, all this other stuff going on, and there is just everything going around. Even
other stuff going on is a great storyline, and their storyline is written to feel and fit into the Greek mythos and work with the Greek mythos very, very well. But does that build the world? They've added one character. But the game itself builds an okay world around
characters, and they build out the gods differently than is typical with some mythos. It's same with the Spartans and stuff like that too.
Looking back on what we said about God of War 1 and 2, I think we made some good observations, especially in God of War 1, where we say the world building was ahead of most games for its time, and it worked in Greek history in a way that doesn't require a lot of outside familiarity. But we still gave it an okay because it didn't do anything special. Like it worked in another world well, but it didn't like build its own world. It didn't really flesh out anything outside of essentially Sparta and Athens.
That's kind of where I am with this one as well. It uses the existing Greek world very well. It throws in the new main character, Kratos, who continues his journey through it. I think they did a really good job of visualizing the world with the art.
They did a wonderful job of visualizing the world.
But it's a world. It's just kind of a path that you go through for the most part. I never felt I was exploring the world.
They do add some new environments in 3, which is nice.
Yep. Yeah, it was a nice fresh change, but it's just another path.
Yeah.
Like God of War 4, maybe I could go to a good with world building.
I think God of War 3 we should be consistent with what we said before And because it didn't really do anything from the ground up, it didn't give you a whole new context. It just borrowed an existing lore. We should go with an okay and say that it worked in what was pre-existing well.
Yeah.
I'm fine with an okay. They, from just like my remembrance of it and the times I played it, at least from the first two, it was, I mean, better on that level, but on its own, it's still, not a fully distinct world and universe that they've built.
Yeah.
It's it's not like there wasn't other games in the PS2 era that weren't doing that. Like the original Yakuzas were on those games. Or in that era, and this was of course the PS3 era when this is really when single player games stopped being so much just action heavy and started having more stories. And they definitely do have a good story and a good world, but there was of course a lot more they could have done with that world to make it unique.
I would go farther with Yakuza and say its world building was good. It really makes you feel like you're in that world. They built a world around you there.
Yeah. That was the point. I was saying, like, for that era of PS2, so we say there wasn't always a whole lot of that, but those games were in that era, and they did a fantastic job of doing that.
Yeah, but God of War 3 is PS3, isn't it?
Yeah. My point was that for the first two that were on PS2, that was one of the things we were saying.
Yeah. And you can compare even its predecessors to those, and yeah.
Yeah, and then PS3 was, they in the PS3 era is when we started getting, more vibrant worlds and more vibrant stories, and this game has those, but not as much as what could have been there compared to what else was being made at the time, and even just how much further they could have really pushed, even just Kratos, or introduced more, or really kind of just flown on their own with that kind of ecosystem they were making.
Yeah, though I think it's perfect for the game. It's still just okay world building. It doesn't take away from the game at all. It's a beautiful line of action destruction that you trod through, and it was great. My favorite of the three. Characters were good.
Thinky about the characters.
The gods have personality. They're consistent. They're consistent to their mythos personality while still being their own unique identity. Kratos is Kratos.
And I think they did a much better job with the side characters in this game as well. Like, you get to see a lot more Greek Athenian heroes, and they are sort of twisted and perverted versions of what you learn of in their legends.
And Gaia and Pandora, I thought were quite well done.
Yeah, for sure.
Characters are unique in writing while being loyal to the original mythos. I think that was the best way I could put it. And Kratos is Kratos.
Kratos is Kratos. Literally too angry to die.
He almost wants to die, but he's just too pissed off.
At the end of God of War 3, he crawled back out of Hades 3 times or 2 times. Like, too angry to die.
I'll be back. I just need to bring someone with me.
Yeah. And for the other 2 games, we gave storyline an okay, but I do think that 3 is sort of a cut above the other 2 games.
I was leaning good with this one as well on storyline. I liked the interactions more.
It's not as well done as God of War 4. Like, God of War 4 really broke the mold for what they were doing as far as the God of War games. It introduced a lot more characters. It gave them a lot more depth, a lot more personality. There was more of an overarching, like, character progression in the game. The story in 3, I would say, is a cut above 1 and 2. but I don't know if it measures up to what we would call a good in most circumstances.
Well, the last couple I remember were okay leaning good. So maybe we can call this one okay sleeping on good.
It's just right on that line.
I think if there's just a bit more depth, but it's also like it's really hard for action games to really kind of have that story, because if you start kind of putting too much, at least for sometimes when there's a bit too much story, if it's not presented a certain way, you're kind of detracting from that action. So I think in the ways that they've done it, it fits perfectly. There could always be a bit more. I can't even really think of what it is, but to me, I'd be fine with just giving it an okay.
I just the reason I lean towards an okay rather than a good is because the games that we have given a good for storyline are truly standout. And 3's storyline was good. It wasn't amazing. It was good.
Yeah, the bar for
Fine.
story is pretty high because there's a lot of games with really good stories. Yeah, that's basically where it's at. I'm with that. It ran very smooth, if I remember right. Played it on the PS3.
They cranked a lot out of the PS3 for that game, and it ran, to my memory, like very consistently.
Yeah, it was a lot polished. There was like a lot. The frame drops weren't as frequent, or I don't really remember too many of them compared to like the first couple ones where there were times where you go into certain rooms with a certain amount of enemies, and they weren't like egregious, but they were there. And this
in
one,
combat, you notice, yeah.
And this one it was smooth all the way through, and even when they're in rooms with a lot of enemies attacking a lot of stuff, you weren't stuttering too much. It was optimized.
On the bright side, when I played the first game with 100 milliseconds of latency, I didn't notice the frame drop at all.
Yeah. I'd imagine you were more distracted by the input latency at that point. Animations in 3,
good.
I would say, are good. Like there's
Love
a good variety of enemies.
glory.
There's a good variety of glory kill whatevers. There's a great variety in the weapons. There's a ton of combos. The spells look great. There's not even a ton of enemy reuse in 3. Like things are pretty unique. I love how any like finisher move is now a glory kill thanks to Doom.
Yep. Ended off with a little wish I could have paid more attention to the QTE events. Please stop using QTE events so I can watch your amazing, beautiful animations and not stare at the little button indicators.
Because they are really cool animations.
Yeah, and after I finish, all the chat's like, "Oh, that was awesome!" I was like, "I saw square, triangle, X."
Stylistically,
everything fit. Everything's great.
And despite the very disparate environments, like we were mentioning earlier, like you explore a lot more of the world in God of War 3. They were very consistently done, and you never felt out of place. Plus, the art was just kick-ass.
Okay. I like that. Plus, the art was just kick-ass. There we go. The musical score, I'm always an okay.
God of War 3's music, I feel like, was the strongest of the original trilogy.
Does it make it into your daily playlist?
I don't know that it would be a good.
Yeah, it definitely has the best score, and it has the most vibrant score. But as well as not even just daily playlists, but just even kind of being aware of when it was playing during like boss fights, and if you feel like holy damn, this is super epic right now. I kind of want to look up what this is. It doesn't really happen too much, but I'd say an okay is fine.
Yeah, it's no Transistor where I started playing the game, got to the first part where Red starts humming, and went, oh my god, tabbed out, ordered the digital soundtrack, and tweeted at Supergiant Games to be like, hey, do you still have lossless versions of this?
Yeah. Cuddles, I know that you were a Hades fan and you wanted to see me play Hades. If you have not played Transistor, you need to play that game.
Transistor's amazing.
You really need to play that game. Same company, same studio, same kind of aesthetic feel to the game itself. But, oh my. Oh, that game was there and fit the game. It never detracted, but never stood out in any significant way. Love the voice acting.
Yeah,
Kratos alone makes it a good.
Excellent.
Everyone was great, but Kratos alone makes it a good. That's all I need to say. No spoilers.
I really enjoyed Zeus in this as well. He pissed me off quite a bit in like the intentional way, and I thought that that character can be pretty hard to live up to, and I think they did a good job with him as well.
And again, like even the side throwaway characters, I thought were very well done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Everyone was great. I led with that, absolutely. And sound effects were good.
Oh, yeah. Especially the parry sound. Oh, the parry sound in God of War 3. Oh, it's so good.
We loved the parry sound. Keep it in your pants, Rage. Transistor is quite good, Lordy. Thanks. You played it already? You know it then? I loved that game. I loved their weapon design system. What a marvelous masterpiece of workmanship on mechanics. If there was something above good, I would give it to them. We loved the parry sound. Enemies and weapons all sounded great. Just keep sucking. AI.
It was a really good game.
It was a really good game. AI.
I'm thinking back. The enemies are very basic for the most part, including the bosses, but it doesn't need to be anything other than basic because it's a button mash character action game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be kind of annoying if they were doing like flanking and all that other kind of more complicated AI behavior. I think it just needed to be, rush at Kratos, but I'm not all at once. You'll notice that there is decent, pacing at least. They'll kind of attack you in the smaller groups rather than just kind of zerg you with everything they've got, and the next thing you know, you're just getting like endlessly hit.
And as I understand, they attack you in larger groups on higher difficulties.
That's what I was going to bring up as well. I think they worked that into their difficulty scaling, where in higher difficulties, larger groups will attack you. Because I do remember playing through the game on some of the higher difficulties, and just like every time I swung the Blades of Chaos, it's just like hitting 15 things at a time on every swing.
and that deserves a good. Incorporating AI scaling into your difficulty, I think that knocks it up to a good, because that's something we're always preaching. We have to reward it.
And as well as the bosses are well done.
Yes.
They were a decent amount of a challenge, and it wasn't like that you could immediately spot their patterns, and it wasn't any sort of egregiousness. It was It was well done.
Allowed for interacting with them rather than running away. I threw that note in there for you, Rage. I'm sure I knew you'd appreciate it. I know that's one of your pet peeves on a boss. It's one of my pet peeves on a boss, too. I hate that. So let me fight the boss. Don't make me run away from the boss. Let me fight the boss. I want to fight the boss. I don't want to run away from the boss. Running away from the boss makes me feel like a wimp. I want to fight the boss and feel like a badass.
Which is why I love Sekiro so much.
Yes.
Every enemy in the game, you can just be in their face.
I make bosses run from me in Sekiro. And they
Same
do
with
it.
Bloodborne.
Yeah.
Why I always say that health is the strongest stat in Bloodborne, because of the rally system. I can just stay in their face and keep hitting them. Good game.
There we go. Doesn't have controller but rebinding.
Does have, I think, subs and captions.
Has subs. I don't know if it has CC. I think it just has subs. Subs and audio sliders, basically. It doesn't have colorblind.
It does not have colorblind, but it's also designed in such a way that like red and green are almost never next to each other.
Yeah, well, red is experience and green is health.
Yeah, but if you're opening, like, if there's two chests beside each other, the colors are separated by the gray of the chest. So you've got a differentiator there. Like, I would say it's designed in such a way where colorblind options would be nice. We would like to see them, but
so basically you're saying
have to be there.
They took some effort into the design of the game to minimize the colorblind impact, so it deserves an okay, because they've put the effort in.
Yeah, I would say an okay, not a bad, because there are some accessibility options, but definitely not a good.
There are volume sliders and subtitles. OCC. No key rebinding. And we don't need to worry about FOV and stuff like that because it's all fixed camera. And we don't need to worry about inversion because it's fixed camera. Nothing drives me more than a game that only allows you to invert one axis. Why don't you let me play your game?
Mechanics. I gotta go with good.
Okay. Really? I don't think it's anything special. It controls fantastically, but it's basically just press buttons, do combos, and QTE.
Yeah, well, I mean, in the same way that a shooter is just clicking on things.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like you're being very over reductive with that statement.
I think we gave the first two good in mechanics, I believe, except for sometimes the puzzles were kind of annoying, but the actual fighting in this game, it's extremely well done. Those combos and the diversity of the weapons, and, you know, the to steal the term again, the glory kills. And so it's all throughout the actual mechanics of the game are very well done and very fun.
And they did improve over 2 quite a bit, especially with the parry system and the introduction of the golden fleece. They also allowed you to combo between weapons, which is something that they never actually tell you about in the game, but you can do.
Okay. I think this is probably what happened with the first two, too, is I went to go okay and you guys argued for good, and that's where we ended up. I feel like I've done this before.
The first one wasn't okay. I remember wanting to give it a good on the strength of the combat, especially for the era that it came out in, and you guys talked me down to an okay because of the puzzles.
Okay.
Or, sorry, trials.
Yes. Yes.
Can you move a box around a corner in 20 seconds?
Yeah, if there's no time trial and it's just can you move a box around a corner, then it's a puzzle. It's a very easy puzzle, but it's a puzzle.
And
so what do you want to
in,
say? The combat
in 3,
was
the combat is
diverse
standout.
with fantastic combos and glory kills. I do remember some good puzzles.
And
Puzzles were
didn't
fun.
they didn't pull the time trial BS on most of them. Was it 2 or 3 that had the Tetris blocks?
I don't remember.
Because that's the one that always sticks in my head. Is that puzzle is awesome.
Yeah, I liked that one. I don't care which one it's from. I remember 3 had a bunch of good puzzles too, though. The thing I remember is, at least for... I'm not one to get stuck on puzzles often for very long. The only puzzles I get stuck on are the ones that aren't puzzles that I turn into puzzles and start overthinking. That'll get me stuck. Like going to the inn, taking an hour, or 20 minutes to realize I can push the log. That'll take me longer than like the minecart in Deponia, where everyone's like, "Oh, this is going to be a while," and it was like 5 minutes, and I was like, "Oh wow, that was fast." An obvious puzzle in front of me. Give me something to figure out, I'll figure it out. But if I make my own puzzle, forget it. We'll be here for a while. Okay. But the puzzles in this game never kept me from the action for very long. I came to them, I had a little quick think, I had a bit of a brain exercise, then it was right back to the action, pushing buttons and killing things, and it didn't break the pace of the game because of that, which I liked.
And the combat is deep enough that it's deep enough that you feel like you have skills to improve upon, but it's not so deep that you're just like, why is this so complicated?
And that's a key. I agree. I never felt it was overcomplicated, and I hate overcomplication in games, which sounds weird because I love complicated games, but I like simple complexity. Simple complexity is a beautiful thing. It should be internally complex, but externally simple. Your interface with it shouldn't be difficult and obtuse. It should be simple, but the back end does lots of interesting things where you might not necessarily see the output. I'd say Dark Souls verges on that. The button input is super simple, and you can just use 3 or 4 buttons and play the game. But if you dig into the background of it, there's so much actually going on that you can use and abuse. Bugs. I don't remember bugs. I didn't hit any.
Standards physics stuff. I don't remember there being any controversy at launch.
Yeah, nothing performance affecting, nothing game blocking.
Occasionally clip out of the world, but PS3 3D action games.
That's not even a bug. That's just how game physics were calculated at the time. I don't think there was a way around it, really.
Sometimes you get unlucky, and your frame isn't one where physics was calculated, so you just keep on going.
Yep. Yeah, it happens. It happens. In a casual playthrough, you should not encounter any bugs. Good job, guys. Again, good RNG. The only thing it was for is the dropping of health, and I don't even know if that was RNG. It could have just been algorithmic.
I think there is some RNG to it, but it was heavily influenced by how you killed the thing. Like, you only had the possibility to spawn health from bats or bat-like enemies when you actually used your grab. If you hit them with your sword, you only got rage.
And you always got health when you did the grab. I think it was just a skill shot health.
I'm vaguely remembering some of the enemies as, boy, I really wanted some magic from that finisher.
Yeah, but you still had to do... Where there is RNG, you are able to influence it with skill shots. It was a nice add. Period. Nice add. Yeah. I think that deserves a good. Anytime you can influence the RNG, you gotta love it. It allows you to feel in control while still having RNG in your game. And players like to feel in control while we're playing a game. Unless it's a specific strange game where you're supposed to feel out of control. But then we're getting into artsy games, not casual games. God of War 3 is a casual game. A very fun casual game. Control is good. No arguments. Nobody's going to argue. Combat is smooth and fast and wow. I just had a seizure on that one. I think I had a finger sprain or something. Just, I tripped. The combat is smooth and fast and responsive. Period. What more can I say?
Control out of combat
nothing
is
more to say.
Fine.
I guess, yeah.
If I recall correctly, they sped up the wall climbing. They gave you more coyote time in 3 as well, I believe. Question mark?
I believe so. It definitely felt like it.
We'll add platforming is fine, never frustrating. I never had a frustrated. That's a very green board.
It's a really good game.
Writing still ended up at an okay.
But it was verging on good this time.
Oh yeah, but the rest is all just good. Good game. Even accessibility was an okay, not a bad, which is pretty amazing.
I like God of War 3. It was a good game.
Yeah. Not as good as God of War 1 platforming, though. Yes. We all know how you love to see me suffer, board. Why do you hate me so? Why?
My favorite parts is the really frustrating parts of God of War 1 with its platforming. You can generally skip very easily. Like, I don't know if it was just QA being like, oh yeah, this room's super annoying. Leave us a platform right there.
I could see it. I could see it. All right. Give away a couple games.
Yeah. It's game time.
Whoever my poor bot, not. Hold on. Hold on. We still have 2 games for you, Cuddles. You have to join our Discord so we can try to give them to you.
Although you might be able to, depending on Cuddles' privacy settings, whisper them to him as well.
You're in it. Oh, okay. Well, send me a PM. I'm always right at the top, and I'm always online. Just whisper me, like, send me the games. I've got at least 2 for you. I looked and couldn't find. Deus is old and blind. Why bot? Why bot are you so bot? Oh, damn it. Why did that invalidate now? OAuth token invalidation. Okay. You know what? I don't have my subscriber list. Awesomely. So I'm going to do this like I always do, but I'm going to do it after I eat my dinner, which I can smell right now, which smells delicious. I see that. I'm going to hit you. As soon as I eat, I've got 2 game links coming for you. What are they? I don't know. And I'm going to do this draw and see what pops out of it. And we'll do 3 more games, and we'll post them in the giveaway channel on the Discord. So if you're in here right now and wondering, am I streaming later? Probably yes. Thanks a bunch, Lordy. You're very welcome. Thank you very, very much for all the support.
Thanks, Incaria.
I won't. You could do it then. I'll just do it offline, off of the stream, before I go live. Get it all sorted out. I've got everything set up. I've just got to do some authentication, logging in, sending keys back and forth that I don't really want to do, on stream. Just for reasons. Security stuff. Security used to be my jam. I love that stuff. Now Cat Jam's my jam. Now I'm all about the Cat Jam.
Also
Cat
cute dog.
Jam. Oh,
You messed it up.
thanks for another great panel. You're welcome. I'm glad you enjoyed. Thank you as well for all your support. Probably be Risk of Rain 2 later. Maybe?
Perhaps, perchance, to dream.
Okay, we'll see. Otherwise, maybe I'll do some Hades. That's why I wasn't doing Hades earlier. I needed to get away from it. You're welcome, Lo. Thank you as well for all your work and support. Thank you for being a mod. You do good work, sir. You do good work. So thank you, everybody, for hanging out. We'll be back a little bit later. Give us some time to eat, some time to drinks. Risk of Rain, yeah! Join us if you can. Cuddles, join us. Clicky on the things. Anybody wants to join, we're happy to unlock anything you want. Bring it on. We'll take on the trial. Anything that we can help with.
I believe Cuddles, Cosmotic, is working on doing unlocks for Risk of Rain. So you may want to tackle that later.
Yeah, absolutely. If he's there, let's do it. But until then, I'm Deus.
I'm Rage.
And I'm Pseudo.
And may all your shots be headshots.